Okay, Mike Masato, CEO of Staff Driven Dental and the Dental Road Warrior, returning for episode 75 in the series. So today's topic is going to be about training and consulting, and the biggest problem that I encounter when I speak with offices that have tried to do this before or are doing it with me. And here's the biggest problem: the implementation and follow through. Right? This is what it all comes down to. I mean, training is great and information is great, but it's worthless unless it's applied. So the whole goal, obviously, of training and coaching would be to take what you've learned or what's been taught to you, and how do we get this implemented in our practice? How do we follow through with this and ensure that it gets in? You know, and one of the major problems with this is that there's no plan to do this. So, you know, one of the things I came up with many years ago, it's one of my main forms that I use, is having and utilizing an implementation action plan. Say, and I will do this, something like that. Okay, screenshot it, but I have this. This is something that I can get to people watching this. But it's a very simple document that I use over and over again. It's one of the core things I use all the time, because one of my mantras in training is, if it's not written, it's not so. You know, and I've used this about management. I've done a Dental Road Warrior episode on this. If it's not written, it's not so. If you don't have things in writing, and what exactly is it you want to get done? Who is it assigned to? Like, who's going to be in charge of getting this done, right? And usually it's a specific person. It's not like everybody, because when you try to get things done and implement, you know, training by committee, it often doesn't get done, right? Because we're all looking at each other like, oh, I thought you were going to do that. I thought you were going to do that. The idea here is to assign it to a specific person who's in charge of making sure that particular thing happens. For example, if we're going to implement a new hygiene system, you know, we have a lead hygienist on it, making sure, or a manager on it, making sure that's getting done. If we're putting in a new system for our new patient experience, for example, we have someone taking the lead on that to make sure that that gets in after training happens. So you learn it, it's taught to you, now you have to apply it. It's kind of like clinic. You know, when you're in dental school, you know, you can only sit in class so much. You know, at some point, you got to go out and implement that stuff now at that point. So you get good at it, you know, and you can actually build up a proficiency in it. Same thing goes with training and management. You know, you need to make sure that you work on this and there's some follow through, you know, and there's some accountability, because the big thing you have to assign it to someone on the sheet that I just showed you there. It's by when. Okay, don't assign anything to anyone in your practice. And this goes in reverse, docs. If you have a manager who you want to have you hold you accountable, put a by when on it. Because if you don't put a by when on it and leave it open ended, funny things happen with time. Okay, it never happens. Right? This is what happened. Life gets in the way, practice gets in the way, and it just tends to never happen. So we procrastinate it, it goes out into oblivion, things go into limbo, and just sits there. All right. I'm a stickler with my coaching and my coach's coaching to make sure that we implement things, because, you know, we have a guarantee in what we do, and that guarantee ain't going to happen unless somebody makes sure that something happens with what's taught. You know, and this gets implemented. So you have to put a by when on everything. It's got to be a reasonable by when, you know, and I don't want to put like an open end, like, well, it's 6 months, a year. You know, the idea, most of what I teach in training, and most of what I would tell you want to put in your practice, put a 30-day window on it at a max date, so it's recent and real, and it's going to happen. The longer these things go out, you know, the more likely they're not going to happen, right? So there's got to be, again, what's the action? Okay? Who's it assigned to, and by when is this going to get done? And you manage from that document. Okay, it's all in writing right there. We go back to that document. When we do our morning huddles, when we do our staff meetings, we are looking at that implementation action plan, or we're doing our coaching calls. We go right to the implementation action plan. Okay, let's start with that. Where are we with everything on this? What's the progress, right? And hold people accountable to making sure that it's getting done by these deadlines, all right? Now, we'd love to have 100% get done of everything all the time. You know, sometimes that doesn't happen, and then you have to make a new agreement, right? But there's got to be some kind of consequence for this stuff not getting done. And you, as a leader, doc, or as a manager who's watching this, you need to basically have some accountability if people do not get the work done and do not get their, you know, the implementation done that we're teaching, right? Or that you want to have changes happen, right? So again, this has got to be important to you, right? If we're going to make changes in the practice and you want things to improve, right, it's got to be done in a finite period of time, and there's got to be the desire to put some urgency on this. You know, by putting things in time, it puts urgency on it getting done. If there's no urgency about getting it done, again, the likelihood of it happening is less and less, right? And as you hold the old adage, time is money, all right? See, the stuff that's on these action plans is changed, is tied in to money. Everything we do or don't do or get done or don't get done it affects the bottom line. So we always back it out from these action plans, all right? Because if we aren't doing much, right, not much is going to change. Nothing changes unless nothing changes if nothing changes. All right. So these action plan sheets should be a standard procedure that you use at all times with your staff for accountability to make sure things get done and follow through once training happens. I don't do training without it. And I don't suggest you do training without it if you're watching this to do that, because the likelihood of anything changing or happening is very low if that's the case. And then we complain about, my consulting and my coaching didn't work, right? It's not the consulting and coaching that doesn't work, really. It's the follow through. It's the accountability. It's like, who do you answer to? A lot of times, Doc, if this stuff is dumped in your lap, and you have no one to answer, who's going to hold you accountable? I always go back to the old personal training, methodology that I've, used to do many years ago with my clients when I did personal training back in the days of the 80s, training clients. What were they paying for? They're paying for a by when. I want to get in shape by this date. And I want you to hold me accountable to make sure I show up. Same mentality here with use of an implementation action plan sheet to make sure that your training gets done. All right. So it starts and ends with that. You should be implementing this. This is something you should do, even if you're doing it on your own to do. But it's a nice little thing, very simple action, very powerful action to have this in place to utilize in your practice with your entire team. Right? But it builds a culture of accountability. Like they know they're going to be answerable to somebody, and it's going to be in writing. And they're going to have to explain themselves if it doesn't get done, and what are the consequences going to be. Usually it's tied to bonus. If people are not implementing and following through changes in the practice and they have a bonus program, they're not eligible for the bonus that month particularly, if that's the case. Because again, a bonus is for going above and beyond, and making and not getting work done should not be acceptable, right? And it shouldn't be acceptable at any time. You're paying for these employees, the staff, these team members to do the job, and getting things done. And just a simple thing like this, make sure they get things done. Okay. So again, a little shorter video, but again, very powerful video, because if you utilize something like this, it's going to make a major change and things get implemented in your practice. Okay? So thanks for watching. Please share these videos as you continue to do so. I love your ideas. If you have any ideas you want to share with me for future topics, I'm open to them. You can always message me either on YouTube or on Facebook. And again, thanks for watching.